The Real Life A-Team, from Delta Force to Hollywood, the extraordinary life of Dale Comstock. In this episode, Dale Comstock, former Delta Force operator and then Green Beret, REA, shares his diverse experiences in the military, private sector and Hollywood. He discusses the rigorous training and selection processes in Special Forces, the importance of physical fitness and nutrition, and the misconceptions surrounding these topics. Dale and I both share a common bond in that our keen interest in health and fitness, along with our success in fitness and strength sports, defined our success in our elite endeavours. Dale addressed the concerns about the decline of physical standards and the concept of toxic masculinity, emphasising the need for rites of passage and a sense of purpose for young men. He shared his personal strategies for managing stress and achieving success, and highlights his ongoing work in security and life coaching. In addition to his extensive military background, Dale is also highly qualified in the areas of nutrition, sports and health. With a deep understanding of the importance of physical fitness, he emphasised the role of proper nutrition in optimising performance and overall well-being. Dale's expertise in sports and health further enhanced his ability to guide individuals towards achieving their fitness goals and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Through his own experiences and knowledge, he brings a holistic approach to his work, ensuring that individuals not only excel physically, but also prioritise their mental and emotional well-being. You can find Dale at www.dalecomstock.com, see the link below in the show notes, and on Insta, this one's good, Official American Badass, and again the link's below. Thanks for watching.
I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator, subject matter expert from hownottoDie.com.au. And you're listening to my Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, sponsored by these guys, mystate.com, the ultimate daily formula for optimum hormone health, stress management, energy, and performance. 100% natural and clinically proven ingredients, it provides everything you need to raise your game in a convenient, gut-friendly capsule. Links for my former shows are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching. And we're live. Welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, and welcome to my guest, Dale Comstock. Dale, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's so nice to have gentlemen's hours with somebody from the United States. Normally I'm up at like 5 a.m. or late at night, but you're traveling at the moment, so it worked out really well.
Yeah, so I'm in Bali, and so we're on the same time zone. That works out perfectly. But sometimes I'm in Florida, sometimes in Manila, and sometimes in Bali. I kind of travel between the three countries. I have homes in all three countries and family, so you never know where I'm going to be. But for now, I'm in Bali.
Look, you've almost stolen Clint Emerson's name, the Violent Nomad, given what you literally do. But look, I want to touch on a bunch of things you do. You've been on a lot of shows, and we just said before, you know, you're an old hand at this. I wanted to sort of open the kimono of what you told in your book is an American badass. I'm going to touch on a few things for the listeners that maybe you haven't talked about. But let's just go through a bit of your background. And I know it's so diverse. I mean, your website's got 2 pages on your background, but, you know, military, special forces, Delta, and now you've gone on to the private sector and a bunch of things. How do you sort of sum up your basic background and what you're doing now, Dale?
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in the military. My father was in the Army, U.S. Army. He spent 20 years in, so I just kind of grew up in that culture. And as soon as I graduated high school, I did the same. I followed his footsteps. I went in for 20 years. During that time, as you mentioned, I was a Delta Force operator as Green Beret. I was in the infantry, airborne infantry, and a long-range scout. Retired about a month and a half before 9/11, so 2001 or 2000 and 2001. I'm sorry. And then from there, I ended up doing 2 things concurrently. One, I started a security company pre 9/11 actually.
Yep.
So in fact, it was being built 7 months prior to 9/11. So I happened to be in the right place at the right time, so to speak. But
Yeah.
that went really well for me. Ended up selling that company 3 years later, G4S Wackenhut. But concurrently, I got recruited by the U.S. government. We'll call it OGA, the Alphabet Company, and as a paramilitary operative for them. Thought I'd just spent a year doing it, and I ended up 9.5 years with them. And and then again concurrently with them. So I wear a lot of hats, and I'm definitely a multitasker, so to speak. I was also the the CEO for Direct Action Resource Center in Little Rock, and then I built another business in 2004 that I sold that in 2011 to another company, and then ended up in Hollywood. I resigned from the government, and when I say I ended up in Hollywood, I was just literally discovered by Discovery Channel, and they basically would court me to do a TV show called One Man Army. So I met all of the requisites, did that, and then next thing I know I'm in Hollywood. I got NBC's calling me, FX, and I'm doing various TV shows and movies. I got adopted by a publishing company, not publishing company, but a production company, and then that worked out for a couple of years until I realized that this Hollywood thing is just not what I want to do. I had a lot of potential. I was told by more than one producer if I would just live in LA, they could have me on the movie sets on a regular basis, and if things worked out, I could be the next Danny Trejo. And I'm like, man, am I that ugly? So, anyways, but it still just didn't appeal to me. A lot of weirdness goes on in Hollywood, and I was lucky in that a lot of people I was surrounded by were very like-minded people, kind of same demographics as me. In fact, I had a production company basically start up, surround me and say, listen, we're a veteran-owned company, and we want to bring veterans into Hollywood, and we want you to be the poster boy type thing. So that's kind of what I went along with it. But from there, I ended up pulling chalk, so to speak, and I ended up in Hong Kong managing a security or bodyguard detail for a multi-billionaire investment banker for a while. And then that's where I met my wife. She's Indonesian. And then she went back to Indonesia. I ended up following her to Jakarta. And from there, saw some business opportunities, built another security company. And then we pulled stakes about 6 years ago from Jakarta. And we moved down here to Bali. So that's where we're at now. We have a brick and mortar security company here. And we provide explosive detector dogs, narcotic detector dogs, patrol dogs for the Marriott properties and some of the local hotels and local venues here. So did all right for ourselves. Pre-COVID came along, and like everybody else, the big scam kicked us in the balls, and we lost a lot. But we've recovered to some degree. But anyways, so, and also I live in Florida. I have a home in Florida. I do a security company over there as well. It's virtual, but I do a lot of consulting and trainings, particularly for private clients. And then I do some work in the Philippines. I have a home there. And I have some security projects I'm involved in over there. My side hustle, is coaching. I love you call life coaching, performance coaching. I've been doing that for about 6 years. And, it's something I enjoy doing. I've coached lots and lots and lots of people from all demographics. But so like I said, I wear a lot of hats, and every day is different. It's different, which is good. It's exciting. The best part about it is I don't get up at any particular time. I don't go to bed at any particular time. I don't answer to a boss. I haven't answered to a boss in 22 years, so to speak. And I've always been, even when I worked for the government, I was a contractor, so I could kind of make my own hours, if you will, and pick and choose which projects I wanted to go on. So I've had a pretty good life so far. It hasn't been without its struggles and trials and tribulations, but that's what you get when you want to go into business for yourself and you want to be sovereign.
Yeah, it's a different world. And, you're saying how you love coaching. So many of us now from the Special Forces world, we just enjoy transferring that knowledge. And I read some of the testimonials from your coaching clients, and it was brilliant. It really was all walks of life, because the things that we take for granted that is absolutely normal to us, Dale, is magical for some people. Even just the mindset, which is obviously what you focus on. And that's where I wanted to sort of take this interview today, because you've been, I think the quote is served on pretty much every operational theatre for Special Forces in USA since when you joined. But we won't do the war story so much. I want to really open that kimono and find out those lessons learned and how you pass those on. So if we could maybe start the difference, because this is how you learned, between special forces and Delta. I've touched on it a little bit with Pat Mack, a mutual friend of ours, how he went through those different selection processes. But people may just be wondering, they might think the Green Beret, they might think Rambo, the Green Beret is the pinnacle. But what's the difference from your point of view between special forces and Delta, where you hit your peak?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to serve in both. I was a Green Beret, as a team sergeant, 3rd Special Forces Group for a while, and then of course I was a team leader, troop sergeant, and acting troop commander for a while in Delta. Spent 10 years over there as well. So the biggest difference is, and this may sound biased, but I'll stand by it. Delta Force is by far the premier counterterrorist unit in the world. I mean, it's amazing what the capabilities that unit has. Most of it's unknown, can't be spoken about, but but Delta, like I said, now it's a counterterrorist, so we specialize in almost every area. I read a blog today, guys were commenting about, Delta Force can't swim because Navy SEALs are better. No, actually, Delta Force actually has scuba teams and water teams that have outperformed SEAL Team 6 in the water. That's a fact. And one of the places that happens at is the CT Olympics in Europe. Okay, so it's let me tell you something, not taking away from the SEALs. However, there's a huge difference. We like to look at them as our little sisters. Sometimes we'll invite them to come along and carry our equipment and our guns for us. So, if they have time to put down their Varney glasses, and put their boots on instead of their flip flops. But a whole different culture from the unit. But I'm not here to bash the SEALs. The difference is primarily, the unit can do all kinds of things: mobility, water, airborne, you name it, we have the capability of doing it. Every operator is very well trained in lots of different skill sets. I mean, literally, there are guys that can fly helicopters, aircraft, fixed wing aircraft, just a lot of specialties in the organization. Every guy's handpicked, unlike any other service I'm aware of, particularly in the U.S. When you go through Delta Force selection, it's an individual effort. You're not with a group. You're not harassed. You're not encouraged. You're a person with no name. In fact, you're assigned a color number every day. That's you. Blue 22 today and pink 16 tomorrow. You're Mr. Anonymous, and nobody smiles. Nobody yells at you. Nobody beats you to death. They let you beat yourself to death is what they do. That's the whole design, of course, is to beat you down, make you beat yourself down physically by yourself, and then watch your head start to explode, right? Because you're trying to cope with all this stuff, and they want to see you can cope. Special forces, you're talking about Green Berets. I was lucky. I actually had what was called a water team, a WIC team, a water infiltration team. But again, I was fortunate also in that I got assigned several other missions, if you will, to include ground mobility vehicles, desert mobility vehicles. So we had the time, the Army had the Humvees, but basically a Hummer, but is rigged up for desert tactical operations. So I actually had the first set of Humvees or DMVs in 3rd Group. Developed all the SOPs for them. So I had now a desert mobility team. I had a water infiltration team. I had a permissive halo team. So we high altitude, low opening, parachute jumping, and what we call a rucksack team. Basically, we were, same thing. We wore our LPCs, our leather personnel carriers, our boots, and a rucksack. So, we were a Portuguese speaking team. So we were trained in Portuguese. My area of operations was Angola, and a secondary operational area was Iraq. And I had diverse skills. And one of the things I like about the Green Berets, in my opinion, is probably one of the best special forces teams elements in the world, just because they're so diverse. You have language skills. You've got 2 engineers. You've got 2 medics. You've got 2 weapons experts. You've got 2 communications experts. Then you've got a warrant officer, captain, a team leader, and an intel sergeant on the team. So you have, essentially about 12 guys on a team, and they all have special skills, but we're known as a force multiplier. We can go anywhere as a 12-man team and build literally armies. And we have all the capability to do that. And the training that we get as a Green Berets there's no comparison. Our medics go to school for at least 2 years. They do a lot of hands-on training at civilian hospitals. like, some of the worst hospitals out there where, there's a lot of casualties, like Chicago. So
Yeah.
they get a lot of on-the-job training. They're trained in dentistry, veterinarian care, a lot, right? And so,
Wow.
and every MOS on that team, and its particular MOS is highly trained as well. I was a light and heavy weapons expert, so I was trained on everything and anything that could kill you. And and so now, am I an expert on it? No, because I haven't used all this stuff in a while. But my job was tactics and making sure that whatever we do makes tactical sense as well as strategic sense.
Yeah.
So comparatively speaking, by far Delta, I think his Delta is by far light years ahead of any organization out there. However, if I had to just not even talk about Delta Force, I would say it's U.S. Army Green Berets, by far the most highly trained special forces out there, hands down.
Now, just to finish that one off, it's very different in USA than New Zealand, what I went through, Australia, and the UK. You guys do Green Beret selection, get into that, and then you can try it for Delta. Whereas let's just go to New Zealand SAS. So Army, Navy, Air Force all apply, and they could be a cook. And in fact, a cook did make it in well before I was in the unit, and he was brilliant. And you'll get a mechanic and so on, but they don't have any special forces experience. So do you think that stood you in such good stead, having special forces experience, operational experience, and then trying out for Delta? Or yeah, no, that's the question. Do you think you had an advantage going for the unit selection coming off a special forces career?
No, it's funny you said that because I actually did the opposite. So here's my story. I joined the Army in 1981. I spent 4 years in the 82nd Airborne Division Long Range Scouts. I was an expert at digging foxholes and filling them back up, sitting under a tree for 2 days and wiping down my M16. Right, that was how as good as it got as a bullet stopper.
Yeah.
I was a grunt. And after my first 4-year enlistment, I hit a crossroad and asked myself, do I want to stay in and keep doing this, or I don't want to do something else? And I was leaning towards going back to the civilian world. And I was married. I had a daughter. She was only about 9 months old at the time. And I called my mom. I said, hey, Mommy, I want to come home. Can I bring my daughter and my wife and hang out with you for 3 months until I get on my feet? And she said, no, not no, but hell no. And so that was the decision point for me, right? So I was like, well, if I'm going to stay in, I'll be damned if I'm going to keep digging foxholes. And so I'm better than that. And I just so happened to get a letter from the unit, from Delta, saying that I was eligible to apply to try out for
Right.
Delta Force, right? So okay, so a lot of guys, the Delta unit asked me to try out for Delta Force because they sent you a letter doesn't mean they wanted you. They said, hey, we're going to give you an opportunity to apply to try out, right? So you have to go through this application process. And when I got the letter, I said, yeah, because here's why. Prior to that, my alert platoon had gone to Hereford, England, and we actually trained with the 22 SAS, their recce teams, right?
Yep.
And we had an opportunity to see the selection process. That was the first time I was ever exposed to it, and I was really intrigued by that because I remember they had this big black and white photograph with 100 candidates, and then every day they had little red X marks on their face. Those were the guys that got eliminated, and then at the end, only a handful left. Like, wow, that's something I'm interested in, and I wanted that challenge. And so when I got the letter, I thought, whammo, that's it. Here's my opportunity. So I did apply. I went through the initial vetting process. Physical fitness test, medical testing. You can't have any kind of judicial punishment in the past or in the present. You have to have a minimum GT score, minimum IQ. There's all kinds of stuff you got to have, right? But if you pass all those things, if you're fortunate, you'll get a letter saying congratulations. You now get to attend the assessment selection process, right? So the next level stuff. And you pointed out being able to recruit from the different services. Actually, the unit now does recruit from all services. Special forces, you have to be in the Army to go through special forces training, but same thing. Everybody that's eligible, you can be a cook, a clerk, a jerk, and you can try out, right? So in fact, in the unit, we had a lot of guys that were non-combat MOSs. Helicopter crew chiefs, whatever, right? Guys that just did different engineers. maybe we even had some cooks. I can't remember, but so it was MOS. It was immaterial, right? Where your pedigree lied in. What was important was that you met the prerequisites on a tryout,
Yeah.
and so like I said, I did it I did it in reverse order. I went through selection. I made it. Spent 9.5 years with Delta, 10 years with Delta. While I was there, I had an opportunity to go through the Special Forces qualification course of being a Green Beret. So the unit kept me for 6 months to go through that. So that's how I became a Green Beret. And then later on in life, in circa 1996, 97, is when I left and I went to 3rd Special Forces Group. I was taking a break, went through a divorce, right? Leave it up to women to wreck everything. And so, wife ran off with my daughter, left me with my son, who was only 18 months old. So that required a change, a temporary change. So I ended up going to 3rd Special Forces Group. I did run an ODA 394 as a team sergeant for that. Had a really good time over there. Really enjoyed my time in Special Forces, but both in the unit as well. I enjoy the autonomy. I enjoy the it was very unconventional, right? So we did let our hair grow out, our mustaches grow out, and it wasn't because that was cool and it was fattish. There was actually a reason for it, and simply that. But it's a lot easier to shave my mustache and my beard off and look like a civilian tomorrow than it is to try to grow my hair out and look like a civilian tomorrow, right? So one thing people don't know about a Delta Force operator, and that term has been hijacked, man, by everybody. Everybody's an operator, even cops now. I'm an operator. You're like, what? Everybody wants to be an operator. I'm an operator. What they don't understand is, the term operator kind of has its origins in the word operative, like CIA operative. But as an operator in the Delta Force, you could be, one day you could be a soldier, tomorrow you're a civilian, and next day you're working in some other government capacity. So for your ratings and things like that, how do they rate you? Rate you as a civilian, as a other government agent, or the Army, right? So this is why you're an operator, because you kind of operate in different spheres. Most people, cops don't do that. Marines don't do that. All these guys, I'm an operator. It's a cool buzzword, but it's been hijacked, and if you say it now, everybody gets mad. No, I'm an operator. It's like, whatever, be whatever you want to be. but it's kind of humorous sometimes. But again, lastly, I'll just round it up, is I enjoyed both. Both of them have, Special Forces, very highly trained, very well equipped. They're kind of generalists, but internally every man is a specialist, so there's a lot of capability. Of course, the unit, the unlimited funding, they've always been funded as if they were in a wartime posture. In fact, we were in war long before anybody was in a war. We were constantly running operations and things like that. And, and it's not just, I said earlier, the selection process is very difficult. But here's the thing, they're not looking for the biggest, fastest, strongest ape, right? They're looking for the guy that's got effective intelligence. You may not be, a professor, but that's not what they need. What they need is a guy with effective intelligence who can problem-solving skills and has poise and can communicate, at a higher level. And so, and also can go out unilaterally and be trusted to carry on an operation, irrespective of rank and age. In fact, speaking of age, I was the youngest operator at the time to make it to the unit at 23. The average age was 33. And to your point, when I went through my selection course, there was a little over 100 candidates. Of the 100 candidates who went through, 6 made it, and 3 of us got selected. I was one of them at 23, just a grunt, as foxhole digger, and the other 2 guys were Green Berets, So, and that only happens a couple times a year. They only have selection twice a year. So about those numbers, the guys have gone through, and 1 guy's made it. Nobody's made it. So it's that hard because it's all mental and it's physical, but the physical part breaks down the mental part, and that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Look, wow, you touched on a few things. I got a couple of things to unpack, Dale. Let's touch on the operator word. I'm just finishing Nancy Wake's biography. I've finished her autobiography. Nancy Wake was the most decorated heroine of World War II. She's born in New Zealand, and I actually sat next to her at our regimental dinner in 2007, which was, I didn't even know who she was. And then she went to Australia and then went to France and operated under the French Resistance and then became an SOE agent, and they were operatives. And this is a beautiful woman parachuting into France in silk stockings and a dress underneath her overalls, and she was an operative. And this amazing woman, she killed a Nazi with her bare hands, and she also commanded 3,000 of the French resistance, Marquis. So that's an operative, as you're saying. That's, I think, is actually the origin of the word. And it encompasses what you're saying, someone that can, be on the trigger one day and then be talking up and down to different generations and classes of people the next. You also talked about, Delta essentially and the unlimited funding. I'm not sure if he's a mutual friend of ours. He might be from the timing. Eric Miaris. He actually sent me a book on his agency. I think it's the only one written on the ISA, the Intelligence Support Agency, and that was when Delta's first mission in Tehran went sort of tits up, and the ISA came out of that. And I'm learning about the funding and the budgeting and the special forces there, and how it sort of started to grow. But when it originally, under JFK, and once JFK was gone, that was really, you're very lucky to have US special forces grow from that, because there were so many of the brass didn't want it. So really amazing hearing your generation of the unit and of special forces, because I've sort of seen, OSS, SOE starting back then, and then through the Vietnam area, and then coming to here. The next thing I want to unpack with you, though, you talked about the mental and the physical, is something you and I both have in common, is we like to lift, and we do the bodybuilding and so on. When I tell people about my career, I've got to get the whiteboard out, just like you. Here's where I started. Here's all the things. But I always say to them, look, my body's got me everything. My body got me my personal training. My body got me into the military. My body got me through selection and a bodybuilding career, of course, as well. But it also changed my state mentally. So I wanted to ask you, or put it to you, how has fitness and bodybuilding impacted your life? Because you are a journey, American badass, and where you've come from, army baby. How has fitness and bodybuilding impacted and, for better or worse, helped you along your journey, please?
Help me, like you, man. It's almost what's created me. So backstory again, I grew up, I'm 60 years old, and I'm as fit as I've ever been. Okay, maybe I'm not as good, I'm not as fast a runner as I used to be, but you know why? It's because I choose not to be. I don't choose to run every day anymore. I do other things in lieu of that, a lot of boxing workouts and things like that. I still lift weights. I'm as strong as I've ever been, physically fit and ready for this. I'm actually rated 90% disabled by the US government, and I will probably be 100% shortly.
Wow.
And so I've suffered broken backs, fragmentation wounds, lots of head injuries. Okay. And I've never let that slow me down. But growing up in the military culture, particularly, as a kid, my mother's German. I grew up in Germany. My father was stationed over there. And in my generation, during those times, look, we played street football every day in the winter time, slogging mud. And we, after school, me, all the boys, and even the girls, tackle football. I had it every day, and, my life was centered on sports, baseball, basketball, football, martial arts, that was my youth, because that was the norm for kids back then, right? There was no video games. In fact, in Germany, we had no American television station. We had AFN, and I think it was called AFR TV. We had one American television station, one American radio station. We all got to watch one, right? Whatever was on, that's what everybody gets to watch, right? And Americans. And so the pastime for Americans was, traditionally we love football and sports and stuff like that. So in the communities, American communities, really the highlight of that time was, watching intramural sports with the kids watching our kids play,
Cool.
And so this was a big deal. This was our pastime. We were like an island of Americans in Germany all the time. And not that I was lucky, because I had my German family. I lived with them quite a bit. I played sports with Americans. But I grew up in a sport athletic oriented culture at the time. And now, this is what prompted me to write my book, and I'll segue into that later on, American Badass. The reason I actually wrote it is because we got too many little skinny neck, jeans, snotty nosed kids, that are growing up to be these weirdos instead of actually growing up to be men. And that was what inspired me to write the book American Badass. It was actually inspire young men to, grow a nutsack and because this is the next generation of warriors, whether it's for Australia or for America. We have common enemies, and they're getting ready. They've been ready. We've gone in the opposite directions. At least Americans have. It's like, are we really an army still, or what are we now? A social experiment? But moving forward, so athleticism was always key to my my youth, and I enjoyed sports. And then finally, when I joined the military, in the 82nd Airborne Division, man, we ran every morning. We were physically fit, carried a lot of weight on our backs and our rucksacks. We were a long-range team, a long-range scout team. I mean, we had to be prepared to travel, 150, 200 kilometers by foot over land, and carry an 80, 90-pound rucksack on our back, plus some weapons and things like that. And so then eventually, after I made it to the unit, PT, his physical fitness was a premium. I mean, this was super important. Now, they selected us on our mindset, but they also know we're physically fit enough to get through selection process, because you got to finish it physically. But it really is a test of your mindset. Yeah. But the unit, some of the best athletes in the world are from the unit. When I say the unit, I'm talking about Delta. By far, we had world-class athletes. I was a professional boxer. We had world-class marathon runners, swimmers. We had some real studs over there. We should have, because we had, amazing gym facilities. The unit really spent a lot of money on gymnasiums and weight training equipment and personal trainers. And, they brought in all the best experts on physical fitness and nutrition.
Well, on that, Dale, I was just listening to Pat the other day. He was talking about he highly likely instigated bringing in the professional coaches to coach the Delta guys.
Yep, we went. I mean, that was all that was. We had an unlimited budget. I mean, we were literally a tier 1 unit. We were always in a state of combat, a state of war, and so we were funded as such. And so we were expected to be the best soldiers we could possibly be. And there was no you could never say, well, we didn't need any money for that. No, you got plenty of money, plenty of opportunities. Yeah. And that's why the unit is what it is, because of that. One, the money obviously opened a lot of doors, but two, the type of people that are there, the character, the personalities, the operators. You're not going to find a bunch of lazy operators that I'm not going to the gym. No, every dude's in the gym. I mean, because he wants to be there. He wants to be the best he can be. So there's a premium on physical fitness. And I mean, the minimum PT score at the time when I was in the Army. Well, let me put it this way: there was a 300 a PT test that had a maximum score 300, 3 events: running, a 2-mile run, push-ups, and sit-ups. And the Army average at the time was around 246. The average in special forces, if I remember right, was around 264. And in the unit, the minimum standard you could have was a minimum of 290, but you were expected at least 300 on this test. And they actually had an extended scale, and every operator was over the extent. My normal PT score was 364. I mean, I could pull off a 2-mile run in about 11 and a half minutes. I could knock out 115 push-ups, 115 sit-ups in 2 minutes, and I was just trying to keep up with the rest of the gang,
Yeah.
So physical fitness was a premium. We were learning a lot about nutrition then, didn't know that much, and there's a lot of misinformation, even by the doctors. We had in-house medical doctors say, you don't need to take supplements. You get all your vitamins in your food. We know that's a bunch of crock now, right?
Yeah.
If you're not supplementing, you're not getting enough vitamins and minerals and things like that. But that was, the prevailing thoughts back then, because we didn't have, but, in time, people have done a lot of research. And, as I have a doctorate degree in alternative medicine, natural health. And so I do study nutrition. I was a professional athlete, a competitive bodybuilder as well. And by far, my physical fitness allowed me to be a Delta Force operator. It allowed me to be a Green Beret. And then by being a Delta Force and a Green Beret, I enhanced my physical performance, because out of necessity, if I didn't, I couldn't keep up. And, and it was rigorous. It was very arduous, but, the way you survive is your physical fitness. So here I am today, 60 years old. I'm in great shape. And in fact, I had planned all summer to do a 4-round professional boxing match at the end of this month.
Wow.
I've had some setbacks because of professional setbacks and things I'm working on, and a lot of travels kind of interfere with my training. But I want to get back in the ring, probably in a light heavyweight division. 60 years old. I want to do a 4-round professional boxing match. Again, the last time I fought professionally was, I think, age 32. And also I wanted to get back on stage in the Masters division and do a competitive bodybuilding show. And I had one planned for October in Florida. I may still do that one. I'm trying to train. It's hard trying to train for all these events and run several businesses and all the things I mentioned earlier that I'm doing. So
Yeah.
This is what separates guys, like us from everybody else. It's like, you carve out the time, you do it whether you want to do it or not. It's like, I don't care how I feel, I got to get my ass up and go do it.
Yeah, what you're saying about physical fitness there, I find that the self-discipline to keep yourself in shape and to push yourself, that is what carried me over to being my best. I wouldn't put myself against the other guys trying to pass selection and then trying to push in the unit so much, but I was just trying to be my best. And I've told this story a couple of times as a guest on someone else's shows to sum up the mindset of the unit. So I was on the counter-terrorist team, which is a different squadron than the Green Roll SAS. And one PT session, and we had a PTI, and it had a physical training instructor. The PTI said, okay, guys, it's just a 5K run. It's just a recovery run today. You go with them training hard, recovery run. We're just going to go around the unit, around the compound, just taking it easy. We have a few stretches. And we're like, yep, no problem. Makes sense, Scotty. PTI is a friend of ours, of course. Everybody's on first name basis there. And we start jogging out, and just one guy wanted to push himself. He wasn't being egotistical. He wasn't like, I'm going to beat all these guys. He just wanted to push himself. He felt better. Of course, what happens about 200 meters later, so 4.8 Ks, it's a 4.8 K sprint to the end, because you can't let that guy beat you. So you push yourself to him, and it was just everybody was running. And I thought that was the epitome of the unit. One guy just had his own self-discipline. I'm going to push himself, and we all just started just chasing him down, and we just wanted to be equal to everybody else. And it was just a sprint of like 35 guys around this track.
Those those alpha males, that competitiveness, I remember that too. We used to do some funny stuff like, I forget what we called it now, but in the afternoon, sometimes as a troop, we'd go into the gym and we'd play combat volleyball or combat basketball. It didn't start out as combat. It just started out as basketball, but it usually ended up with fist fights and people getting kicked in the nuts. And they got really, really aggressive, because you just cannot put a bunch of operators together and expect them to play civilly. So even against each other, they start to maul each other after a while, man. We used to walk out there, all bloodied up in fist fights, and then of course we all have a beer, we're friends again, but it's just the competitive nature, of those personality types that are required for those types of units. As you pointed out, when you have your assaulters that are your A-type personalities, your snipers, they tend to be your B-type personalities, very more sedate, relaxed, can lay down for long periods of times, look through a scope. Guys like me, I can't sit still for like 10 minutes. I got to start moving around. But it's the assaulters, when you put those guys together, the A-type personalities, oh my God, it's like a bunch of pit bulls,
I'll tell you what, Willie Appiata, who you may have heard of, he won a Victoria Cross before I joined the unit. He taught us one day, we're going to go play basketball with a glove. And people wonder, what is basketball with a glove? And sometimes guys like us know. You get a boxing glove, and you choose which hand. You only get one. You choose which hand it's going to go on. Is it going your shooting hand, or is it going to go on your punching hand? Whatever is going to happen. So the only rules were it's got to be below the chin and maybe above the groin. And it was just brilliant because it's controlled aggression. We've got to go in and run and gun, and then you got to hold the baby. It's controlled aggression. And it was brilliant, and it was a great game. And somebody goes up for the shot, and then you smash them. And civilians don't really get it, but we do. It's like play fighting, but a bit more intense. But I tell you, after I left the unit, I came to Australia and I joined the police. and we're at the police academy. And they said, "Oh, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Can I teach you this game?" Basketball with a glove. And police academy is different people. You know, there was some people from the military, but mostly it was housewives and middle class young white males. Anyway, long story short, it was me running around after everybody with a glove trying to play basketball.
And why nobody wants to play with me? Yeah, different. Well, you know, I mean, now we're starting to see, you know, the sheep are starting to migrate into the freaking in the herding packs, you know, and it's a whole different. The Western world is completely different, man. It's upside down, backwards, inside out. It's like, what is going? You know, I can speak for the Americans, but in a lot of ways, Australians are like Americans. I mean, it's very funny the similarities when I look at your country versus ours. I mean, even if you look at like the Mel Gibson, you know, the Road Warrior, you know, movies, you know, the look at the cars, it's like very similar to American cars, the deserts, the dress, the mannerisms. Here, when I'm in Bali, you know, I see a lot of Australians, but I don't know if they're Australians or Americans. When I first see them, I have to listen. It's like, American, no, he's Australian, you know, because they look so similar. I hate to say this, but you know, Americans have turned into a bunch of fat slobs. I'm not gonna lie, man. I mean, you know, we are the fattest country in the world, but Australians are right behind us because I'm telling you, I'm looking at this guy going, "Oh my God, that's embarrassing. I hope that's not American," you know, American or Australian, you know, but it doesn't matter. But you know, but we're very similar in that respect. You know, cowboys and you know, I see it. You know, we've had SAS, your SOS commandos. We've had them assigned to my special forces team. I've had them with me, you know, for like a year. They came over in exchange programs and stuff like that. So, you know, got to know a little bit more about your culture. You know, it's not very different from ours, from our own. You know, you guys just need to work on your English speaking skills.
well, I'm a Kiwi, but I've been living in Australia for 12 years, and yeah, there's a quote we say about Australians: we only ever support the All Blacks, which is our rugby team, and anybody playing against Australia in any sport, because we've got this rivalry between Australia and New Zealand. But yeah, it makes me laugh with over here the stereotype. It's interesting what you say about the Americans being fat. I just watching yesterday about physical fitness standards in America in the 60s and no 50s, I think. And now I don't think an American child can do more than 6 press-ups. I'm not sure the definition of a child, but it's pretty scary. And actually, I wrote a note down here. You talked about the military standards and the culture you've got over there. Widemu Moffat was the RSM of New Zealand SAS. He's now the Sergeant Major of the Army, which is awesome. And I've interviewed him because I can speak publicly about him. Because the Sergeant Majors of the armies of the world all meet, Dale, he said after a meeting last year, bone density of this generation of kids, so I'd say around about the 16 to 25-year-olds, bone density has dropped 20% in one generation. And then worse still, literally applicable, is they can't throw as well, which means they can't throw a grenade at a safe distance. So in one generation, the decline, I remember we were talking before about video games, the decline of the physical standards has really changed. So it's almost coming to our next part, which is about lessons learned. It's really important that we pass on those lessons to our young.
Yeah, I think in 2 points, you're right about, you know, the male, you know, males in our society. Like, for example, there's a study that came out that said the average male today has 50% less testosterone and sperm than men 20 years ago and their grandfathers, right? Yep. And so I wonder if there's not an environmental component to that, and I think there is, and I'll share that with you in a minute. But well, I'll share it now, in fact. Yeah. So, you know, we're being infused with various types of xenotoxins and estrogens every day. You know, plastic bottles, you know, environmental pollutants, plus the food that we eat. Okay, none of that's good for anybody's body, whether you're male or female. Yep. It has a very deleterious effect on everything. Moreover, socially, you know, we've been brainwashed into this mindset. I think it all started with Dr. Spock at one point a long time ago, where it's like, you know, don't spank your children, you know, and suddenly, you know, be more sensitive. And suddenly we've gone from corporal punishment. Like, I used to get my ass beat by my mom all the time with a wooden cook spoon. Right? She's German. I messed up. Crack. I get one over the head, or a backhand in the back of the head. My dad would pull out the army belt and beat the shit out of me, and teach me a lesson. It didn't look. I'm not crazy for it. I'm very successful. I'm very happy. I'm not abusive. It taught me some good lessons to keep me from going awry, later on in life. We don't see that today. Kids don't go out and play street football. They're playing video games. They don't want to go outside in the rain because their hair will get wet, some really weirdo stuff, and then this whole thing about toxic masculinity, it's all propaganda, but, people hear that, young boys hear that, teenagers hear that, and they're impressionable during those ages. And then they try to, I don't want to be accused of toxic masculinity. So I think I'll put on lipstick and high heels, and blend in with all the girls, There's this weirdness going on, man. And society, particularly Western society, I don't see this as much as some of the other, like the Russians and the Chinese. This is sort of something of a phenomenon of the West. But, I think in a lot of ways, our society has really emasculated our young men. And there's this notion that we're all equal. We're not equal. Men and women are not equal. Okay. Everybody wants equity, but the reality is men are better at some things than women, and women are better at some. Listen, I can't have a baby no matter how bad I want one. They got to do it for me, And so let's be real. Okay. Let's stop pretending like, what is a woman? Well, it's whatever you want to be. No, it's not. So we got this weird place right now. And it's going to be to the detriment of the West for sure, because although I know the Chinese, they've kind of they've also started to they've become more aware of this trend happening in the Chinese culture. You start to get these these boy bands with their long hair, and they look very feminine, and all the girls like them, and so all the boys want to gravitate to be that. And Chinese government says, hey, we're limiting this. Only this much MTV, this much video games, and now they have they actually have these like almost boot camps to put boys through to make them man up, so they're recognizing it, and they're trying to curtail before it becomes problematic, like I think it has in the West. And so our enemies are doing what we used to do in the 40s, 50s, and 60s to prepare our kids and our soldiers. They're doing that now, and we're doing the complete opposite. We're making recruitment cartoons with a gay girl, and and how and blending in, and like just some really was nothing to do with war fighting.
No.
But anyways, I'm speaking about referring primarily to my culture at this time, the weirdest culture in the world now. But this is kind of a trend in the West, I think, and it's because I don't know, man. I wonder if it's because we thought we're trying to be too righteous and too virtuous, that we're overdoing it to our own detriment in the future. I mean, tough love, man. When you raise a boy, you want to raise him to be a man, not some androgynous carbon-based matter that doesn't know who he is and doesn't. We need men, we need warriors, we need protectors. We need, who do you want coming to rescue if you're in a 20-story fire, in a building? Who do you want coming to get you? A 100-pound girl, or a dude that weighs 200 pounds that can carry 300 pounds? I think I want the dude.
No, there's like a couple of things to unpack there, Dale, which I agree on. A few times you've said phrases that essentially are, if I sum that up, it's rites of passage. I'll come back to that. The other thing is, one of the tenets of New Zealand SS is brook no sense of class, humor and humility, and so on. We had 2 females were destined to come up on SAS selection, and we're like, awesome, bring it on. Because if you're beside me and you've passed the things, I don't care if you're purple, trans, anything, if you're equal. And I've got there's a transsexual station officer at my fire station. No problem, because I know that person is absolutely qualified and could carry me out if that person needs to. And I've had amazing female firefighters beside me that are smaller than me that can do the job. However, starting off your point, men and women are not equal. Men and women are different. Absolutely. If they can't pass it, you don't let them have a pass. What I loved about joining the fire brigade here, Dale, was there's one physical fitness standard. So we all had to pass the beep test at 10 or whatever it is. We all had to lift the dummy. But when I joined police before that, Dale, fitness standard for men was different than females. I was like, we're chasing and fighting the same guys. How does that work?
Right.
So absolutely, the equality there is down to what you and I are absolutely used to. It's capability, ability, and skill, not determination of, okay, I'm going to let this person in. Then going forward to the rites of passage, I think that's what we're missing. Summing up what you said, males or boys are missing that rite of passage to become a man. You said to become a warfighter, become a protector, and they're just missing it. It's not really there, and that's maybe where those males are getting confused at 14, 15, 16, impressionable. Where do I go? What's my purpose? And you're a perfect example. You knew your purpose and you've repurposed yourself. But a man without purpose is lost, and that rite of passage is important, and it's important now as it was then.
Funny you said that, purpose, right? This is what I tell my coaching clients. My first question I ask you, what's your purpose? What is your purpose? They don't have it. Most people don't have it. It's almost a standard answer. And the standard answer is to be kind to people, not hurt furry animals, and set a good example. How, how, why, what, how are you going to do that? Right. What are you going to, and the second question I ask, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered, particularly by your family when you're gone? You want to say, oh, he was just a regular dude, he's a shit bird, or he's a good dude, or he did this, whatever. That's how I kind of look at it. Is, where's my purpose in life, and how do I want to go out remembered? Okay. Yeah, it's, you said rites of passage. A lot of my coaching clients, I get, when I do a lot of personalized training, I get guys that pay me a lot of money. These are wealthy individuals, wealthy men that spent their whole life flying a desk, making money. But guess what? All this money and all this richness, there was still an emptiness there. And that emptiness was in their heart. There was that doubt, that their wonderment, could I have done that? Could I have jumped out of an airplane? Could I have gone shopping? Could I have done, all this stuff?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they live through guys like us vicariously, and so I end up getting a lot of these guys, even for my online coaching program, because they want to learn more skill sets and they want to test themselves. I mean, I got guys that pay me money to beat them up just to see how tough they are. And so it's kind of funny, right? But but there's that element out there. So on one hand, men desire and men really need to feel that fulfillment as a man. They need to be able to say, I was tough. I got in a fight. I got beat up. I beat somebody up. I could kill somebody if I need to. I was trained to do this. And so for a lot of guys that come to me, they're trying to find a rite of passage, even if it's for a weekend. You go, yes, I trained with Dale Comstock. He taught me how to shoot a gun, how to pick a lock, how to punch somebody in the face, right? And all these types of things. So, and they can tell their friends now when they're having a drink at a social party, yeah, I trained with the Delta Force operator. Yeah. They need that. We need that, right? We need to feel like that, and I think when we deprive men of that, is when, in young men and children, young boys, when we deprive them that later on, it manifests itself with guys trying to overcompensate, drinking, drugs, abusing women, children, or not succeeding at anything they do. They're just running around like a, unguided missile. They just, they're a train wreck. And so luckily a lot of guys that come to me realize that, and they said, hey, I could use some guidance from you. But so that's what I try to do, is I try to provide a mentorship role, not just for men, but I actually coach women as well. Mostly men though, they come to me, but because guys want that, they need that, and they're not getting that no more. You have fatherless homes. The statistics are out there. They're very plain. Boys are raised in a home with only their mother, have an 80% more chance of being in prison. They turn to a life of crime. They're just socially, maladjusted. Whereas kids, both boys and girls raised by a father in a single home, actually fare much, much, much better. And so I would argue they need both, but if it came right down to it, what's really lacking, what do they really need? It seems like the father figure is the real important figure in the family, at the end of the day. Maybe not for the nurturing part as a child grows up, but for post-life, or post-teenage life, I think this is where it's important that kids have a good father role. Even daughters have a good father role,
You're right.
And it prepares them for life. And, early on we started a segment about physical fitness in the military and the correlation between the civilian world. And it's, again, I hate when I hear people say, well, work out, train hard, and die anyways. So yeah, how do you want to die though? You want to die with a lot of meds in your body in a wheelchair, or you want to die on your feet doing a 25-mile marathon? Or and so and so I always hear that, and it makes me think of about a time I heard an interview with can't remember his last name, but it was Dave, the founder of Wendy's hamburgers, right? And they said, Mr. Dave, aren't you concerned all your greasy cheeseburgers and stuff was contributing to obesity and bad health in America? And he blew it off. He's like, no, he goes, I just need my body to carry my head, right? And so he died from congestive heart failure not too many years after that, but if you want to live long, you have to you have to work out. You don't have to necessarily go to the gym. You just need to be fit, work on your fitness, stay healthy. You don't have to eat like a rabbit. In fact, I just eat meat. I'm on a carnivore diet. That's all I do is carnivore. Now I do spurge. Now I do eat other stuff, but I'm always in ketosis, so I'm always burning fat. So I stay pretty lean. But I'm always in the gym. Every day I go to the gym, 5 days a week minimum, 45 minutes. I wish 45 hours, 45 minutes. Seems like 45 hours sometimes. But when I go with a purpose,
Yes.
And I know what I'm going to do before I'll show up at the gym. And I've got a regimen to follow, and boom, and I knock it out. And like you said earlier, it's not just working out; it's how hard do you push yourself and keep trying to develop yourself,
It's that
And
self-drive.
so, yeah, it's been a staple of mine all my life. I mean, since I was a kid as an athlete, and it's always stayed with me. That's why I feel at my age that I think I got at least another 40 years in the gas tank for sure, and not in a wheelchair either, but literally on my feet, looking like this, and and I'm going to give my wife hell in bed until that day comes, and so, but I've got some cool pictures too. I've got pictures of guys that are 70, 80, and 90 that are just shredded and ripped, man, like, wow, and so these are guys I look up to, okay, and then the next argument comes out for all the listeners out there. Yeah, but they're probably taking steroids. So what? They're cheating. And what? Cheating in what? Life? Are you cheating in life if they're taking steroids and you're 90 years old and you look like a 20-year-old freaking bodybuilder? You are a bodybuilder. You're a competitive bodybuilder at 90 years old.
Yeah.
You're cheating in life because you're taking steroids. Keep on cheating, man. Maybe you get another 90 years. As you see the mindset that's out there, so many people are averse to opening their minds to opportunities and possibilities. In fact, I was talking to a client the other day, and he was talking about everybody's like, oh, don't take any soy products. Don't take soy products because they'll give you a gynecologic masculinity, bitch tits. Why? Because it's got estrogen in it. No, it does not. It's a phytoestrogen. So there's so much misinformation out there, right? And so, yeah, it's a form of estrogen, but it also acts like an estrogen blocker for human estrogen, right? So so there's so much out there, so much misinformation. And this is why, and I'm going to speak about my country. We're the fastest country in the world because we had followed the government's recommended daily allowance for food in the food pyramid, which is completely upside down, right? Completely upside down. Emphasis on carbohydrates, minimalizing meat, and when it should actually be the opposite around, right? And so I think in large part the American government, with our standards alone, have probably killed millions and millions of people because they went along with the food program. Oh, okay, I could eat a lot of carbohydrates and no meat and avoid this and avoid that, and they're dead, so you have to educate yourself. You cannot, do not listen to the government, anybody's government when it comes to this. I don't listen to the CDC, the World Health Organization. We already know they're full of shit. Okay, look at what happened with COVID. So, I don't give them much credibility anyways. I just do my own due diligence and I learn as much as I can about taking care of the machine, because this is what's going to carry me through life. And, everybody should be aware that drugs don't fix the problems. All it does is, it hides the symptoms. But, and every time you take a drug, it's like swallowing a hand grenade. It might address one issue, but it's going to create a whole lot more issues.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, you touched on something there, not listening to the government guidelines. I interviewed Dr. Kirk Parsley, who was a SEAL, left the SEALs, became a doctor, and then went back as one of their premier doctors. And when we discussed the state of America about a year ago in the middle of the pandemic, he said, Damien, I've got this body of people saying this, and I got this body of people saying the absolute opposite. I trust them all. I've been educated, I can discern, and they're all highly regarded, and they can't agree. So what he had to do was discern. He learned, as you have, I know you're a professor. You learn to discern information. Here's one example. HMB is a popular supplement, and HMB was purported to be stronger for growing muscle than testosterone. One study showed that. I think it was by an actual friend of mine, Professor Jacob Wilson. Unfortunately, all the other professors in the world they laugh at that. It's $1 billion industry because none of the other 20 experiments by 20 other labs could replicate the study. So they've discerned, hang on a sec, your study says this, but we can't replicate it, so we're going to go no. But if you just read the thing that said HMB grows tons of muscle compared to steroids or testosterone, then you'd go with that. You have to be able to decide for yourself, which segues into my second to last topic, is what lessons have you learned from the military, from your life? What's a couple of lessons that you learned that that you're paying forward to others now? You've probably mentioned many of them already, Dale, but what lessons have you learned from all the things you've done? You've done a lot of things that you're passing on to people now that you think are very important.
Again, take care of your body, right? So people neglect their bodies. They think they get enough exercise because they went to work. That's a whole different exercise. Working is a different look. I did some construction work one time for a friend of mine for 6 months, right over the summer during COVID. He needed some help with construction company. I had nothing else to do.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll go out there, swing a hammer. And it was actually on a beach in Florida, right in the middle of the summer. It was blistering hot out there, and we ripped up and put in a 28,000 square foot deck plus concrete and everything else, right? And it was only a crew of about 5 or 6 of us. And I would literally get up at 0500 to 1700 every day and go out there and swing a hammer. But you know what? That was exercise, but it was not the same kind of exercise. I would still have to go to the gym in the afternoon or in the evening after I'm done, right? And work all body parts. And I did that every day. So it's a different. So when people go, well, I do enough work. I walk all day. Okay, that's great. Okay, what does that do for you? Maybe build your cardiovascular system a little bit. But studies have shown that weight training, particularly resistance training, you mentioned brittle bones, will strengthen your bones. Okay, it releases all kinds of hormones, feel good hormones, dopamines and serotonins. It repairs, also causes you to produce more proteins that repair the body, and also boost the immune system. There's so many reasons why, and one other good reason is, when we talk about cardiovascular system, you also your lymphatic system. It's the second circulatory system, but it doesn't have a heart. How do you get all these toxins out of your body, out of the lymphatic system? The only way to do it is exercise. Like the muscles massage the lymphatic system and need this stuff out, and you have to purge yourself of this every day. And if anybody that's not working out and doesn't train thinks that's not necessary, I'm in good health. I'll tell you this. I'll challenge you on this one. Go to the gym for an hour and a half and work out with intensity, with a purpose. I mean, really push the weights, really exhaust yourself to where you walk around, ooh, that was a good workout. And I guarantee you, by tomorrow, you're going to have the flu, or you think you're going to have the flu. It's called post-exercise immunosuppression. You know why? Because you just released all these toxins in your system at one time, and your immune system goes, what the hell? We're being overrun, and you're down for 2 weeks. All right, because that's what happens if you don't exercise. Our toxic loads are so high every day because of environmental pollutants, foods that we eat. Our body's just constantly trying to evacuate all this garbage that's in us. It's working overtime, and we just put more in it to handle it. And the only way to keep that regulated is exercise, because nothing else will do that. Your immune system will get overwhelmed. Then what happens? Your body goes, hey, I got all this extra garbage. What do I do with it? Hey, I just stick it in the fat cells here, plug it in here, right? So, all this has a deleterious effect on them. So people think, oh, I feel good. I'm 300 pounds and I'm fine. Yeah. Wait till you have to push yourself. And this is why a lot of people died in COVID. Okay. It wasn't from the virus. Okay. It was from in fact, I think the CDC came out and said 3 out of 4, 96% of people that died had 3 out of 4 different types of contributing factors, i.e., heart disease
They
or high
did.
blood.
I read that same thing, Dale. That was the exact number. 3 out of 4 had not confounding, but associated diseases, and they
Comorbidities.
decide comorbidity, I think it was.
Yeah, comorbidities. Yep, yep. So and the people that survive, you know, those are usually fit and healthy, right? So I've had COVID, I think 4 times, and the first time it hit me pretty good, but I never had a problem breathing. I've got great windbags. My problem was just, I felt like, I always had malaise. I'd get up and walk around for 5 minutes. I needed a 30-minute nap to recover, right?
I was exactly the same, Dale. Exactly the same as you.
Yeah. But I got through it. And then actually, what got me all the way through it is, so about a month into it, I'm still on, the term I use is queer street. I was still all messed up, and I couldn't think straight, and I just couldn't get the energy. And even though I wanted it, my body just wasn't operating, man. So I did something. I went back to my know-how, and I said, you know what? Let me start injecting some testosterone. I actually hit some testosterone and some Dynabol, and it started. I took steroids, and I tell you what, within probably a week to 2 weeks, I was back to my old self. And then the next time around, then the other thing I did, and when people say ivermectin doesn't work, let me tell you, bullshit. It works. It works in less than 3 days. Every time I take it, boom, I'm done. But fitness is also enhances longevity. It enhances resilience to disease and all those types of things. And the unit, we understood that. I was in a helicopter crash in 1990, Black Hawk crash in Panama, and we had a lot of guys get really banged up. 5 of us had broken backs. We had broken pelvis, arms, legs, concussions. Luckily, and the helicopter was a mess. I got pictures of it on, I think, Instagram and Facebook, but you can't even recognize the front from the back of the helicopter. It's just twisted metal laying on a bunch of jungle trees, And the doctors, all the surgeons unanimously agreed that the only reason we probably all survived is because of the level of fitness we were in. We actually were able to sustain ourselves throughout all that, and through all the procedures, and hell, within 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, I had a body cast on, full body cast on. I was in a 5 months, and I remember my brother-in-law, little fat dude, right? He's always harassing me about whatever. He's always bragging, and talking shit to me, and he's like, "Oh, I've been checking out run you now." I go, "Yo, yeah, fat boy, watch this. Let's get on the street." In a body cast, I still outran him, right? So I was sprinting him, and that was the mindset. And then from there on, I went to work, and every day I had my gun belt on, and I had a pink body cast, by the way, not a blue one or a black one. The doctors thought they would be cute and give all this pink body cast, and it was the summertime, so you really didn't wear a shirt over it because it was like wearing a freaking ski jacket in North Carolina. So I'd go to work with my pink body cast, my gun holster, and go out on the range with everybody else, doing what I could do, like RoboCop. And and I didn't slow down from that point on. I mean, for the next 5 months, I continued training, doing everything I could possibly do that the cast would allow me to do as far as movement goes.
Yeah.
Other people would probably just go, "Oh, I'm just going to lay in bed for the next 5 months," and because they got this rural mindset, you got to rest and relax. Actually, I think the other opposite is true. The body's designed to heal itself. You got to give it the nutrients, and you have to exercise it to do that, to build a resilience. And I have found that even when I have an injured knee or something, I might ice it or whatever initially, but what do I do right away? I start using it again. I make it adapt. I don't lay up for a month. "Oh, my knee hurts. I can't go to work." No, I get my ass up and I walk around on it, and I start running on it. And if I have to brace it, that's fine. But eventually, that's how it comes. Like I said in the beginning, I've had broken backs, arms, legs, all kinds of body parts, concussions, fragmentation wounds. I've never let that keep me in my bed ever. I just get back up, at 90%, disability rating from the government this time. I can still box. I can still do everything I want to do. Yeah, sometimes I'll have to work through some pain and discomfort. Yeah. And I do augment with a lot of herbs and vitamins and minerals and stuff, But going back to your initial question, if I had to give you advice, it's like, take care of your body. It'll serve you well into your years. I'm 60 years old. I've got 5-year-old children. I've got 39-year-old children and everything in between. I've got a young wife, I'm living the life of a young man. No different than when I was in my 20s and 30s. I really don't feel any different. I just a little bit worse for the wear and tear. But that's, to me, fitness is paramount. Don't believe what you hear on the news. Don't believe what you hear from the government. Do your own due diligence. Do your own research, and learn how to take care of your body. And that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice everything like sugar. Oh yeah, you do have to sacrifice sugar to some degree. Okay, I very rarely take sugar anymore. I've noticed my inflammation's gone down. I feel better. Joints are better. I do take stevia. Stevia's fine. But outside of that, I still enjoy pizzas. I actually enjoy drinking a beer or whiskey. I don't, I still get to enjoy life, but everything in moderation. And I'm always managing my physical fitness. Every morning I get up, the very first thing I do is I walk in and weigh myself on the scale. That's the first thing I do a day is I get a baseline for the day. Okay, this is where I'm at. Okay, and I manage that every day. If I see that number start creeping up every morning, it's like I got to hit the brakes and do something different. Get that number down to where I want it to be again. So it takes mental discipline to do that, right? It takes discipline to do shit like that, to monitor yourself. I've got a smart watch and I'm always checking my VO2 levels when I'm sleeping, my average heart rate. I check my blood pressure every morning. I check my wife's blood pressure every morning. I'm taking care of the machine. If I neglect the machine, something's going to go awry. And it's going to happen, and I'm not going to see it coming, and then it's going to be too late. So take care of your body, and it'll take care of your mind. They go hand in hand. Your digestive system and your brain are inextricably linked. If one's out of whack, the other one's going to be out of whack. You've got to bring them together, right, in congruency. The other thing is my second. I talk a lot. I told you in the beginning. I warned you. You can drink some coffee and go leave for a while and go shopping. I got this. But the second advice to people is, self-discipline, auto-governance. You have to be able to get your ass out of bed when that alarm hits. When you hit that alarm, get out of the bed. Don't hit the snooze button. Have an agenda. Know what you're going to do. Okay. Understand that it's not going to be a perfect day and you're going to have to flex and do something else other than the agenda, right? Be flexible in that sense. Keep a smile on your face. Deal with stress. Okay. And I'll just share my hacks real quick. Nothing's ever as bad as it first seems. It's not ever. So don't freak out because something's happening. Just relax for a minute. 2, it's not a problem. It's a challenge. Okay. Change your perspective. You'll change the outcome to something more desirable. When we have a problem, we want to put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging wound. Okay. That might work for about 2 seconds, but we'll probably make it worse. Right. And the third thing I tell everybody is when you're confronted with an issue, something that's causing you stress, something as simple as, where the hell is my car keys? I got to go to work and I can't find them. Something like that automatically evokes the fight or flight reflex. You don't have a choice in it. It's a primitive instinct. And when that happens, you lose what? Situational awareness, you lose peripheral vision, you lose depth perception. All these weird things start happening because you're getting ready to fight a saber-toothed tiger, not look for car keys. And so you're like, and then you're running around like a nut, right? And then finally your wife's like, what is your problem? Your car keys are in your hand. And you're like, huh? Oh shit, you didn't even know they were there. Right? Because you got so dialed in on this perceived threat or survival situation that you didn't even see the obvious anymore. And that applies to everything we do in life, because you're going to miss a lot of things and miss a lot of answers out there because you're stressed out. And then more importantly, and let me back up, and to get out of that, I go to what I call my anchor point. It's basically what I call pre-arousal levels, usually about 20 minutes to hour before out. I just kind of regroup, put my mind on something else. And usually when I come back, my peripheral vision's opened up, my situation awareness is better. I see all the answers in front of me, and I'm like, see, there was no point in freaking out. So those are my 3 hacks. But the other thing that's important about stress management is every time you get stressed out, it's something as simple as losing your car keys or misplacing car keys or having an argument with your other half. That evokes the fight or flight syndrome. And that fight or flight syndrome also, you release a couple chemicals, hormones. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, and even cortisol. And what does cortisol do? It tells all other body systems, listen, man, we're getting ready to face a saber-toothed tiger, and I need all resources, okay, from all non-essential organ systems. So digestive system, you don't need to digest shit right now. Give me your oxygen and nutrients, divert to the large muscle groups. And same thing with the immune system. Hey, immune system, I know you're fighting stage 4 cancer. But if I don't take your resources right now and give them to the large muscle groups to fight the saber-toothed tiger, you won't have to worry about stage 5 cancer. We're all going to die, right? So that's kind of how your body is designed to save itself, right? And so if every day you're stressed out because you can't find something, a little argument, something made you mad on the news, you're actually suppressing your immune system. And what's going to happen is it's not going to function effectively. And in time, disease takes over, right? Because it's allowed to flourish. Cancer cells, right? We produce cancer cells every day, but it's our immune system that keeps scooping them up. But as soon as your immune system can't do that anymore because you're always stressed out, cancer takes hold, right? So we create our own problems because we don't know how to cope with problems. You got to learn how to cope with life. Nothing's ever as bad as it first seems. It's not, okay? And the fact that most people, everybody's listening, I hope they're still alive, they're not zombies or dead on their feet. But the reason you're still here is because you've been able to manage this far. If you want to manage way into your life, and you got to manage the stress if you want to be happy, So physical fitness, stress management, those are two key, I think, two essential things to longevity. And then everything else is, I want to say elementary because it's not, but, stay focused. And remember, you have to have a mission, a purpose in life, and attention. That's what I call it. Got to have that. Set a goal, set lots of goals. If you're not doing that, you have no purpose. You have no purpose. What are you doing? You're wandering around in life. Well, what do I do now? You're bumping the wall here. You're messing this up here. The second thing you have to have is you have to have a plan, an action. What are you going to do? How are you going to get to your goal? If you don't have that, nothing happens. I got to have a plan. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the gym every day for 45 minutes. Today I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to do that. It's already laid out. I know what my goal is. My goal is to look a certain way, bodybuilding show, boxing match, etc. And the third thing I got to have, the most essential part of this thing, of the 3 tenets for success, is desire, passion.
Yes.
You got to have it, right? If you don't have it, nothing happens, right? So think of it like this. You're sitting in a car. You're looking out the windshield. You're looking at the top of a mountain you want to drive to. Your wheels are the mechanism that's going to get you there. They're the medium that's going to roll the vehicle there. Okay, so think of that as your action plan, your wheels. And the third thing you need is an engine, right? The engine turn the wheels to get you to the top of that mountain, right? The engine is desire. Without the engine, without desire, nothing happens, right? So that's how I look at it. And so have a purpose, have desire and passion to do it. If you don't have 110% passion, desire, don't do it. You're going to waste your time, okay? And have a plan. Don't just kind of wing it. Come up with something cogent. Go, okay, this is what I want to do. Is how I'm going to do it. Anyways, I ramble a
Dale,
lot.
that is interesting. The Straight Talk Mind and Muscle show is not just veterans, not just SF guys. I have professors on, I have doctors on, I have athletes and so on. But that sums up a special forces mindset. Special forces, whatever words you want to use, because I know it literally means something in your country with the military. But a purpose, the plan, and the desire, that was what got us through selection.
Right.
I'd like to add something to that is self-belief, which is, again, why people come to us, why people ask us these questions for themselves. How do you get that? Because we have those things and we've seen it work. And those 4 things together, that's where we've got. And it's literally what you've done all your life. I'm aware of your time. I'd like to ask one question that's relevant to you, because there's nobody else here that's done it. Nobody in the world, I think, has done what you've done. You invented a PMC company, or mercenary company in the old days, but it was PMC straight after 2001, but prior to 9/11. What's the difference between a unit operator, SF operator's body, which is having to lug, 100-kilo packs and all the gear, to what you're doing as PMC? Because you're built, you're a big guy. Pat's a little guy. A lot of the others are, Chili. Look at Chili Palmer, tiny little guy. What's the difference between what your body is in the Special Forces units versus as a PMC, not having to do those long range patrols? What have you found in your journey?
All right. So just for clarity, I've owned security companies. I never owned a mercenary company.
No, sorry.
But I have worked as a mercenary with a very small team. And so in that regards, and I've done, you could argue that I was also a mercenary for the government in a lot of ways, what I was doing. I'd been hired as a contractor to come in and basically, fulfill a combat role, so to speak,
yes.
Right, on the terrorism. So with that said, actually, there is no difference, because even as a paramilitary guy, as a mercenary, you had to be prepared to do the same physical things that you did as in the unit. For example, I use a story in Yemen. It's all on the internet, so wasn't supposed to be, but a seal with a big mouth, like everybody. But anyways, in that scenario, it was only a handful of us, and the equipment we had was the equipment that we actually made in the field. We bought all our weapons off a bazaar through another source. We sourced ourselves that way with everything we had. So when we went into the street fight, we had the same equipment as Al Qaeda and Houthis and others. But the differentiator was, one, we had better skill sets, and two, we were very physically fit compared to the average guy. Because if you think about Al Qaeda, they're not in a gym jacket every day for combat. They're not doing that. Okay. And look, I've done enough of them to know that, these guys are dead fish. They look the part, they talk the shit, but most of them are very ineffective. But we would need to be better than them, because I might need to drag or pick your body up and carry it to, to a vehicle, to an exfil vehicle, or something like that. Yep. So physical fitness was always paramount. And so, would you have to walk a long distance? Well, you might, in a survival situation, right? Yeah. So, you might have to carry a load. You might have to carry your buddy on your back, So everything I did, when I looked at the guy on my left and right, it's like, you better be in shape, because not for you, but for me, because I'm in shape for you. That's how I looked at it. And so it didn't matter. Now, I'll tell you, though, going back to the unit, the level of fitness there was literally Olympic professional athlete level stuff there. Most guys in the military just can't keep up with that. Not because in any way they're underlings, it's just because the unit guys are afforded more training apparatuses and trainers and everything, man, to make them like superhuman physically. The rest of the military really doesn't get that opportunity sometimes. But yeah, there's really, it was just important to me. And I had guys come to my special forces team, my A team. I had a 13-man ODA. It's supposed to be 12. I had 13, which was unheard of. All the other teams had maybe 8 or 9 guys, because there was always a shortage of Green Berets. And the guys would knock on my door. Hey, Sergeant Comstock, I'm looking for a team to go to. You have any openings? And my first question out of my mouth was, you like PT, physical fitness, physical training? You like it? A lot of it, part of it, hard training? Nope, I gotta get out of here. As soon as you said, I want to get out of here, you gotta go, yes, sir. Let's do this, and we just get out and knock out some push-ups, because that's how important it was for me, the physical fitness part. In fact, as a team sergeant on my ODA at the age of 36, I made sure I outperformed every guy on my team. I could outrun them, outruck them, everything. I led by example, even though these guys were a lot more younger than me. That was an imperative to myself. I must outperform my guys physically and set the example. I need them to follow me and know that, I'm leading all the time, whether they like it or not. They can't catch up with me. And so it's always been, very important, the physical fitness, and particularly in a military role and paramilitary role. You don't want, look, survivability, I just mentioned earlier, the more fit you are, the better chance you have to survive. That's just the reality of it. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Like I said, you're probably the only person on this planet that's done those roles, and your personal fitness side of things as well. Look, really cool to cover off those subjects. I hit the angle I wanted, which was combining the physical fitness and self-discipline with your career and how it's impacted. And you've really summed it up. And I love what you're doing by teaching that to others, by transferring that knowledge over. Look, it's in the show notes on the intro. I do the show notes as a video intro straight away, so they've already heard where to find your things. But people listening now, where's the best place to find information on you, Dale?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. You can look for me on Official American Badass. Official. It was one of my daughters that created that for me a long time ago. Awesome. So it's official. And so you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. I got kicked off Twitter, banned for life. I'm not sure why. But anyways, that's not the first time I've been kicked off of social media. I've actually got kicked off of Facebook for writing a story about my dog when he died. I mean, this is the weirdest stuff. I get targeted for sure, but because of who I am on many levels. But for now, you can still find me on Instagram. I'm trying not to, corrupt that and screw that up, and LinkedIn. And I have a website, DaleComstock.com. You can reach me through that as well. Yeah, I appreciate being on here, man. And like I said, at the end of the day, life's what you make of it. It's a series of compromises. You have a choice, what to do. And you have to live with the outcome, take accountability, responsibility for it. And remember, just because you fuck up, because you fail something, is that look, it's all that is feedback. Okay, don't feel bad. Take it as a lesson, learn from it, and then reapply, reattack, reattack. And that's how I look at failure as feedback. And this is why I've been relatively successful. Christ Jiminy, and look at my life and where I live and what I do. I'm not rich. I won't even pretend to be rich. I'm not, but my wealth is my richness, so to speak, or my health, and my experience is my wealth. So, it's because I always persevere, and most people don't. But if you can stick to what you want to do in life, and you have the desire, the passion, with the intention, and with your plan, there's no reason why you can't succeed.
I love that. And I've got some amazing notes to put through. I'm looking forward to reading your book, American Badass. That sounds great, and it's been brilliant learning from you. We learn from everybody, and that's what we're taught in the unit.
And by the way, if I can interrupt real quick, I'm sorry.
Of course.
Just spurred my thought when you said book. I said, oh yeah, you know what? I'm actually writing 5 more books right now.
No way.
I got one coming out. I've been saying this for a while now, but I've got to get it out probably within the next 45 days. There's a reason for it. It's I call it running the razor's edge, but it's about my experience, a mercenary experience. And the reason I'm putting that out is back in May, BBC actually did a documentary about me, and particularly in the mercenary world. And so it's going to air in November. So I want to get the book out prior. And the reason why is I want to make sure that I write the facts in the book. So when you hear something on the news that on BBC, go, wait a minute, he did what? Like, for example, I want to clarify, because I just saw it in the London Sun newspaper came out yesterday, and they're referring to, me and my team as assassins. Like, no, we're not assassins. Okay. We're professional soldiers. So I don't like to use word assassin. I don't like to use word bombs. If anything, I'm gonna use explosive charges, things like that. So I'm gonna lay out the vernacular in the book and exactly what happened in the sequence, right? So I got to get that out ahead of November, and I kind of call it top cover, to make sure that I told the story and they get it right. I've got several books coming out from of different things I've done post 2012 that I've done with my life. So I thought, after Hollywood, being on TV, that was it. That's going to be the final chapter. But actually, it was not. It was actually almost the opening chapter of my life. It's like, how could that possibly all that I've done? But I ended up doing many things around the world. Everything from, I don't want to call it smuggling human beings, but basically helping people escape places they were in, they couldn't get out. We call them velvet cages. Help people, that had other problems, that were being robbed and then extorted by syndicates, in other countries, coming in and robbing my clients and harassing their kids. So I've had to intervene with stuff like that. I've done bodyguard work from Hong Kong to, starlets in Los Angeles. And so I've got some really cool, they're all real stories. So there's going to be a total of 5 coming out. And one of the books that will come out will be on Dale Comstock's operator. I call it Dale Comstock's operator's manual, right? Nice. Mindset of a Delta Force operator. And that will be coming out. And I will be covering a lot of the stuff that I talked about today, stress management, physical fitness, and all those things that I think are relevant to, actually really relevant to everybody at the end of the day. If you can adhere to some of those principles that we thrived on, and I still thrive on, you'll have a better life. So anyways, that was, I had to throw that in there real quick. Stay tuned, the books are coming.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to that stuff. And the same thing that so many of the SF guys have done. Ollie Ollerton, he worked on human trafficking out of Thailand, I think, child human trafficking and so on, and freeing those sex slaves and a bunch of things that are going on. But it takes a good strong man sometimes to take down a bad man, and that's what I do with How Not to Die Guy. I want I think I've got one of the on the business card or on the flyer, available to all good people, because I want good people not to be hurt by bad people. And unfortunately, violence is out there. And when violence visits you, that's the end of talking, and you got to do the stuff. And I don't want to see people get hurt that are good. And I love teaching. I love sharing that information. So thank you for what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to that stuff as well. Actually, I remember you were saying something there. John Shrek McPhee was also involved in something around that as well. You're talking about that 2012 era, but I'll go back and listen to it, see if I can put something in the show notes about it.
Yeah, he was they call him with the sheriff of Baghdad. I don't know what he did there. Honestly, I wasn't in the unit. I had left the unit a long time prior to that, so
Yeah,
he's way after me in that regard. But I was literally I was in Afghanistan, Iraq for 9.5 years up until 2011. And then I went back doing the mercenary stuff in 2015, 2016. And by the way, everything that I got involved in after 2012, I just wanted to mind my business and be happy and do Hollywood stuff, and just chill out. It's like all this stuff kept falling in my lap, like, hey, are you still doing security stuff? Well, what do you need? Well, I got this problem. This guy stuck a knife in my wife and ripped us off with like millions of dollars. Can you help? I'm like, well, hey, and it's for the but then here I go, off into the sunset, and I got to lie to my wife, say, hey, babe, I'm gonna go train some guys to do something, and she's like, oh, okay. I'm actually out there slinging lead somewhere in some evil place that nobody will ever find me if something happens. I don't look for it; just kind of falls in my lap, and I just kind of feel like sometimes, like even right now, I'm an assistant a fella trying to recover his kids in another country,
Jesus.
a non-permissive country. And or semi-permissive country, I should put it that way, semi-permissive country, and trying to help get those kids out as well. And and again, that was just, hey, call this guy, he might be able to help. And I get the phone call, and hey, I need your help, man. I need my kids. And I'm like, oh, man, pulling at the heartstrings,
Oh, yeah.
okay, let's do this, So, but I gotta be honest too, man. I like it, right? It's like once you do this kind of work that we do, you always want to go back to the well and take another drink. I mean, one of these days we're going to fall in it and we're done. But I'm going to keep going back and take a little sip again, and no matter how old I am. And
Yeah.
So this is another reason I keep myself fit and healthy, because I don't want to get shot in the face or get killed on the battlefield because I was too damn old. I couldn't zig when I needed to zag.
God damn, that's like the real A team. That's brilliant. That's what I grew up with, Hannibal and the A team, and loving it when the plan comes together.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Well, Dale, thanks, man. Thanks so much. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show. I'll put those links in the show notes for you. I'll hit pause. We'll have a quick chat, but thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, anytime, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former Special Forces operator, and check out my new project for 2023 at hownottodie.com.au, where I've combined all my Special Forces training and police officer experience to help others. Thanks for watching.